Real Hustle podcast, hosted by Chris Kiblin. Real hustle, real people, real results.
What's up, Dan? How are you today?
What's up, man? Doing great. How about you?
Good. I'm glad we finally got this to work, right?
Yeah, man, absolutely.
So, all right. So why don't we, so a lot of people know you as Dan the Waterman, right? Yep. So you are basically the water guy, the go-to water guy that's out there. And you also own, H2O Heroes, correct?
Yep.
Okay. So before we get into some of this other stuff about your company and some other things that you're doing, how did you get into the water filtration system? Because that's kind of, how did you start involving into what you have now?
So my dad was in it. He did it for 25 years.
Okay.
So he introduced me to it when I was a kid.
Okay.
And I just fell in love with it. Water in Florida is not good. Neither are the drivers, but I can't fix the drivers. But I can fix the water.
Right.
So
that's kind of, because I was wondering how you got started in the business. So it's been passed down to you. So in some ways.
Yeah, the industry's definitely been passed down.
Okay.
The H2O Heroes, we started that 5 years ago. And we're growing exponentially.
I know, because that's the thing is like every time I see you seem like you're adding somebody else onto, especially when I see you on social media.
Yeah.
So my system that I have is the system that you guys. So we actually have your system in my house, and so I thought that's part of the reason I was like, I kind of want to talk about that because you started the H2O Heroes, right? Now, was that the original name of the company, or did you change it over time?
So the actual company name is Water Filter Warehouse.
Okay.
Right. So that's our actual company name. The H2O Heroes is the team.
Okay, gotcha.
So every company has a team. So the team is the H2O Heroes.
I love how you came up with that because it's a cool concept. I was like, I want to be one of those guys.
Hey, I'll make you one.
So, because you got, it's a great marketing thing. So if people haven't seen it, you got to go check them out. And you got the, on Facebook, it's the H2O Heroes.
Yep. Yeah, all social media.
All social media.
Yep.
Okay. So check them out. They've got some of the coolest characters. They all look like superheroes. And you got your car done like that, right?
Yeah, we have a couple cars like that.
So they're all wrapped up in everything with all of those types of logos. So let's kind of backtrack. So you own a water filtration company. And so my wife is the biggest person when it comes to water. She's like, I'm not drinking. She calls it the Aaron Brockovich water.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not drinking that stuff. So we had to have a water filtration system put in. We were buying, before we actually got hooked up with you, we would be buying the big 5-gallon things and dumping them in and making a mess everywhere. Yeah. And so because she refuses to drink water out of there. We cook with that water. Everything. She gives that. She will even fill up my dog's water dish. She won't give them regular water. That's how much. So tell me what makes somebody needing the water system compared to what's out there, what you get in the public.
Okay. Well, as we know, we're in Florida, right? The soil here is really thin and sandy. Okay. So that's why we don't have basements. You can't dig more than 2 or 3 feet and have not hit water.
Right.
So anything that is sprayed or spilled or applied to the ground, whether it's from insecticides or herbicides or from a golf course, whatever, it all goes into our aquifer. So from a municipality standpoint, it doesn't make sense for them to spend billions of dollars to treat the water the way that it really should be treated. And frankly, they can't afford it.
Right.
Because the reality is it'll just go to taxpayers.
Right.
And we're not going to pay for it. So they leave it up to the consumer, right? So there's a lot of different things that could be in the water, like fluoride or arsenic or even really? Calcium, magnesium, stuff like that people don't want in the water. So that's why you need filtration.
So there could be arsenic in our water?
Yeah, you can look up your specific zip code. It's a third-party company called the Environmental Working Group, ewg.org/tapwater, and you can put in your zip code, and it'll tell you all the different health guidelines and what's above that in your community.
Wow, that's kind of crazy. Never thought about that because that's the thing is I know my wife is so against it. And I never really even I drank out of the garden hose when I was a kid.
We all did, man. We all did.
So it's I'm really. I was I drank out of the garden hose and turned out pretty fine. I was but
that's debatable, right?
Well, that's true. But your thing is you can tell a difference though. I can tell a difference now when I drink
for sure
clean water compared to drinking water out of a faucet, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you know, one of the things that really kind of also gets me is like, so sometimes you'll get water and you can smell the sulfur in it.
Yep.
And it's like, whoa, you know, and so it's like, what am I getting? What am I drinking when you smell that?
Yeah.
You know, is that something you really want to put in your body? And so, like, that's kind of like one of the things why I wanted to have you on is because it's kind of a, you know, what you do is really does help people as far as what's out there, because the water, I mean, it is contaminated.
Yep.
It's got stuff in it. And so, you know, I was like, well, let's talk about this, because, like, so you started your business 5 years ago.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit how you started the business, and, you know, give us a little bit of how, like, because you've grown it quite a bit. I mean, you know, you're growing, and you're just not here, right? You're like I think you're all the way up in Tampa and everywhere else now, aren't you?
Yeah. I mean, our goal is to go nationwide. We trademarked the H2O Heroes and Water Filter Warehouse with the goal to franchise or have dealers throughout the country. So that's the goal, you know, is to expand.
Okay.
You know, but it's got to be with the right people.
So how did you start this? How did you decide that you want to say, hey, I want to open up my own company?
So I've worked for a lot of different companies. Won't name company names, but I've worked for a lot of the big players in the industry. And I figured out what they did right and what they did wrong. We don't do anything that they did wrong, and we do everything that they did right. So learn from them, you know, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and, you know, took that and kind of implemented it into the H2O Heroes.
So what makes you different than your competitors?
So if you were to compare a water treatment salesperson to a used car salesperson, you're doing the used car salesperson an injustice.
Okay.
The industry is so misleading, so slimy, that our reputation and how we handle our customers is 100% the most important thing for us. So honesty, transparency, you know, be ethical, have integrity, all those things are huge.
So what kind of stuff are you seeing out there that's not, like, what are they saying? Because, like, I mean, I guess my question is the water filtration system, is there different types of systems? And
Sure.
they say that this works this and this works that, and maybe those guys don't do this? Or, I mean, what's kind of your scene?
I've seen so much. I've seen people install equipment on people's homes that are empty,
Really?
you know, where there's nothing filtering the water. It just goes through an empty tank. You know, I've seen people install a water softener where they tell them it's a whole house reverse osmosis and say, oh, this is going to be purified water throughout your whole house. It's just not, you know, 90% of the time you don't need that, number one.
Right.
Number two, you're not going to sell a whole house system for the cost of a water softener, you know.
Right.
There's just, and then so many unethical practices, lying to people, just telling them what they want to hear to try to close the sale, you know.
Instead of actually doing what's right for them.
Right. We're consultants. We're not salespeople.
Right.
You know, if you decide you want to go with us, great. If you decide you want to go with somebody else based on the information we tell you, that's cool too. Just get your water fixed.
Right. That's the biggest thing, right?
Yeah.
So, like in my house, I know my water system is, we got two systems.
Yep.
So we got one system that is for the whole house, right?
Yep.
And it goes through, I believe, our water filtration system that's outside, that I believe there's salt in it.
Mm-hmm.
So what is that? That's just like is that a water softener? Because I don't know.
So it's a softener and a filter.
Okay.
So your system it softens the water. So it's going to, you know, help your plumbing, your pipes, your appliances, skin, hair, stuff like
Well,
that.
that's one of the biggest things that I notice about your system is a shower.
Yeah.
You know, when I am at home and I shave, because I shave in the shower, it's like so much smoother.
Right.
But when I go out and I go to a hotel, it's like hard water. It's like, it's so different.
It's night and day, right?
It is so different. And I never really realized it until we added that system in there. And I started going to hotels and I'm like, wait a minute, this water is not even the same, because like it's nice and smooth when you shave.
Yeah.
You know, and it's this like, it's just like, I don't know, I feel cleaner when I use it too.
For sure.
And so like that's part of that whole system there.
Yep.
So then we have another system that's actually underneath our sink. And I think that's the reverse osmosis system,
Exactly.
correct?
Yep.
So that's when it's being filtrated, that you can make it drinkable and it takes out all those chemicals.
Yep. Exactly.
So what, and is that like, walk me through what that process is like.
So that provides purified water. So anytime you see, you know, whether it's Aquafina, Dasani, Sam's Choice, any purified water in the store, now you have that at your kitchen faucet.
So you don't need to buy all those other waters that everybody thinks that I need to go buy because they think it's purified, right?
Yep.
And you're saving, all those plastic bottles, all that stuff that just accumulates, and you could put it right in your house.
Yep.
And the thing is what I didn't realize, I don't think the systems are that expensive if I recall.
I mean, it's all relative.
Right.
How much money do people spend on bottled water every year?
Tons.
Right. Especially people that are really healthy, like, you and Debbie.
Right.
You guys probably drink a ton of water.
We do.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is like, so, and we use just that water we have through the filtration system.
Yeah.
Like, so we don't buy other water because it's like, why? And we don't need it. We'll just take it. And if we want cold water, we just take it and fill it up and put it in the refrigerator.
Perfect.
So like, that's kind of the thing is like, and then like, I mean, the whole water house system is just kind of crazy to me. So, got your business, you sell the filtration systems, and then you were growing. So was it just you that just started, or did you have people with you?
I mean, in all transparency, I had a partner.
Okay.
I bought him out a couple years ago.
Okay.
Just didn't work out.
So then it was you and your partner. So then you bought him out, and then how many employees do you have now?
14.
14.
Yeah.
And are they all like sales reps, or are they?
So a combination between sales reps, installers, service techs, office staff.
Okay. So kind of like everything, like what they do. And then
Yep.
you got people that are going out and selling the systems as well.
Yep.
So on a good month, how many units do you sell?
60 to 70.
Wow.
Yeah. We need to make that 600 to 700, which
Right.
we'll get there.
It takes time, right? It takes time to build
does.
it. It takes time to get to that point.
It does.
So
You got to build it the right way.
Right.
We've learned the lesson there too.
And talk about that, because that's one of the things I think people need to understand, right? Like going into business for yourself, and either whether it's the water filtration system, the plumbing business, air conditioning business, whatever it is, there's growth. There's struggles, there's growth. There's
Of course.
okay, this didn't work, that didn't work. So what were some of your struggles that you went through that brought you to get you to where you are now?
So there's 2 points I want to make. Number one, I think the faster you can hire somebody to do what you do at the very beginning will help you grow exponentially, right? So I was doing all the paperwork, all the finance paperwork, all that stuff at the very beginning. And I hired an assistant that started handling that stuff for me because I'm the revenue producer, right?
Right.
So as soon as you can get in the field and produce revenue, that's the most important thing at the very beginning. Secondly is don't grow too quickly. We actually had a contract with Sam's Club that sounded really great, right? Sam's Club's huge. There's tons of people there. So we had to hire 45 people to be in our different Sam's Club stores, all hourly, right? We had a minimum. We had to pay them $15 an hour. So you start doing the math, right? A lot of payroll. Yeah. But they pigeonhole you and saying, oh, you can't walk around the stores. You have to be in this little exit area.
Okay. Right.
So something that sounded really great, and then they take a huge percentage of your sales. It didn't turn out to be great. So we were doing hundreds of units a month, but losing money because our overhead was way too much.
Gotcha.
So when you're building a company, you got to make sure your overhead is in line with what your revenue is. Otherwise, you're gonna,
Yeah, I didn't even think about that because, I know because I go to Costco, and when I'm leaving Costco, there's like a garage door, air conditioning, a tire, or whatever it is, right? All these people sitting there, and that must have been what you guys were doing, right?
Exactly, just in Sam's Club.
Yeah. So, but just in Sam's Club, so which you would think would be a great opportunity, but then if you looked at it from your standpoint, it was like, well, wait a minute, we're not making any money here, right?
We're losing money.
Yeah, losing money because I'm paying all these people out to be sitting there, and they got to be there when the store's open, and then but then the systems, and then of course, they want their piece as well.
A big piece.
Yeah. So, I guess that does make sense. But that's the thing is you don't know until you know.
Right.
And I think that is one of the things that that's why when we do these podcasts is everybody has a different struggle, right? You think something's going to be magical, right? Well, oh, wow, Sam's Club. They're a huge company. That's a big thing. We can, oh my God, this could be life-changing for us.
Yeah.
But
and that's what we thought initially.
Right? This is going to be big. We could be throughout the country if we could grow this. And, and it's but in reality, it's wait a minute, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. And it's more problems than it's worth.
Yep.
And sometimes people think growing because they're oh, wow, I'll take part. You know, you see this also when people like all of a sudden they want to start doing stuff in like they got a food product and they want to put it in a grocery store, and all of a sudden like, you know, well, this is great, we can be in, you know, Publix or whatever, and what you don't realize is Publix going to take a big piece of that, and then all of a sudden you got to make all this product, and now you're like, well, wait a minute,
I need to hire people.
I need to hire people, and I'm not making as much, and now you know, my profit is like this much compared to where it was, you know, a lot different before. So sometimes growth is not always the best thing, and you know, and it isn't, but it's good, but you got to do it the right way.
Absolutely.
Right? And so, you know, because you want to make sure you have the right people in place. You know, when you're trying, I know even from my mortgage world, I just won't hire just anybody, right?
Course, yeah.
You know, I'm very specific on who I have on my team. I'm very specific who I surround myself with, because, as you know, as an owner, probably that particular person, if they're not the right fit, can also takes a lot of your time.
Oh, yeah.
And that time, taking that time out of what you're trying to teach them, or taking that time out of trying to help them grow, or if they don't really want to do it and they're just there for a job, you know, then that takes away from what you're doing, and that takes away from either your other employees, that takes away from your revenue, that can take away from everything else, right? And then your business could start suffering from it. So it's like, you know, and I know from just my own experience going through that, I was just like, you got to be careful on who you hire.
Yep.
So talk me a little bit more. So now you're here. So where's your location at?
We're in Valrico.
Valrico.
Yeah.
So that is what?
Like near Brandon.
Near Brandon.
Yeah.
Okay. So is that, you got a store there, or
We do.
you got a store?
Yeah, we have a storefront.
Okay.
Storefront, warehouse.
And that's where everything's at?
Yep.
Okay.
We had an office in Lakewood Ranch, and when COVID happened, we just said, hey, we're never there.
Okay. Right.
You know, just consolidate into one.
And then, now are you mostly up in that area, or do you?
We're all over.
You're all over.
Yeah.
Okay.
We do a lot of business in the Sarasota area.
Okay, because I know you're down in Sarasota
All the time.
all the time,
Yeah.
and so you do a lot of different things. So one of the things that also I wanted to talk to you about is your Sarasota word of mouth that you started. Because was that the first one you started?
Brandon word of mouth was the first one we started, which I
okay.
started with a couple guys. but
Okay, and then how big is that one?
About half the size of Sarasota.
Half the size.
Yeah.
So how many do you have in Sarasota right now?
36,000.
36,000.
Yeah.
Did you expect it to grow like that?
No. I mean, it was definitely needed in this area.
Okay.
You know,
Right.
the whole reason I started it was because I saw a lot of these groups they just go and recommend a bunch of people.
Right.
And people were getting ripped off. You know, so that's part of the goal of Sarasota word of mouth and all the word of mouth groups, to share the good, the bad, you know, with every company you experience, to have an experience with. You know,
because I mean, I can tell you. I mean, I belong to them. I
Yeah.
belong to that one, and I belong to Sarasota, Venice. I think there's Lakewood Ranch one too.
Lakewood Ranch, Bradenton.
Yeah, so I mean, I belong to those, and so and especially the Sarasota one. I see comments. People always asking for people like recommendations. They're always looking for people, and so you started that one, and then now it's got over 36,000 people. How do you monitor all that? How do you keep track of all like what's going on in this page? Because that's huge.
It's another job.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a couple of people now that, because it's getting so overwhelming, that help me, you know, admin a little bit. One of my teammates does, a couple people in one of the networking groups I started does. But it can get overwhelming. I mean, there's thousands of posts a day. And most of them are not, you know, they're not going by what the rules are.
Right.
They're just random. They're realtors posting open houses, or, you know, one guy the other day, he posted the same thing 65 times. I guess he didn't realize that after the second time it wasn't getting posted.
Oh, wow. Okay. 60.
You know.
So you got to monitor all that stuff.
All of it. Every post has to get approved.
Oh, wow. So you make sure
Yeah.
it's approved first. So you got to go in and approve it before it
Yeah.
actually shows up onto the Facebook page.
Yeah.
Wow. So that's a lot of work on top of that.
It can be.
But the thing is like you've created something that's a lot, obviously it was needed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, and I think, you know, a lot of the people that are using it's helped them with referrals, right? It's helped them grow their business.
There's a lot of businesses that is going on in that group.
Because there's a ton of businesses that are in there. And I
Yeah.
know, and then you also started the networking nights, right?
Yep.
So you have those, because tell me about that.
So it's the first Tuesday of every night. Next month, I think we're actually going to have it at Pop Stroke.
Okay.
But, you know, it's 150, 200 business owners come and, you know, mingle, collaborate, see how we can help each other.
That's pretty awesome. I
Yeah,
mean,
man.
and really, because I think the thing is like, if you could figure out how to get businesses together and understand each other, you can help each other, right? Especially small businesses.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's so many small businesses, and if your small business can help. And, hey, I've got these guys that need air conditioning, or I need this guy to help with plumbing or something like that. Because you probably run into that. You'll be in a house or something, setting up a system and be like, hey, do you know a plumber? Or
All the
hey,
time.
somebody to help me with this. So,
Yep.
it's kind of a cool thing and to see and watch and grow. So walk me how you can, because one of the things that I find interesting as well is your guys that you created these cartoon characters of you and your team, and that's what the wraps are. How did that come about?
I have 7 boys.
7?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. They love superheroes,
Okay.
and the reality is when you think of an exciting product, I don't think water filtration is the first thing you think of.
No.
Right? So it's got to be something memorable, something that sticks,
Right.
So we had to create some kind of brand or some kind of image that when you think of water, you think of the H2O Heroes. You don't think of Water Filter Warehouse. That's kind of just boring.
Right.
So we get comments all the time that people are like, wow, we love your branding. It's bright. It's fun. We remember it. I mean, that's the goal. We want to be a household name.
Yeah, because that's a cool. So, and the website's actually the H2O Heroes as well.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's kind of a cool thing. So then you take your guys, your employees, and make them like little.
It looks just like them, too.
Yeah, the heroes, right? These guys. Do they get to pick out what they are, or
They get to pick their colors.
Their colors?
So a lot of them are based off of like football teams they like. Or,
Okay.
Like Ricardo, he's Puerto Rican, so he wanted Puerto Rico's colors.
so you let them choose that, and then you come up with this? Now, do you create it, or does somebody
No,
else?
I hired a guy on Fiverr.
Okay.
He's in the Philippines, and I don't know how he does it, but it looks just like our guys and
Yeah,
girls.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of crazy because I was sitting there watching it, and I mean, you got them on your car, on the wraps now, and everything
Yeah.
else. So how does that? It's probably got to be a pain, or like, so what are you doing? You got somebody who leaves or comes, you got, so
They just stay on there.
they just stay on there.
So if it was me, for example, instead of DK, maybe it's Don King instead of Dan Kelleher. I don't know.
Right? So
Just a different name all of a sudden.
Okay,
Because
gotcha.
once we create one of the heroes, I mean, we had a guy a couple years ago pass away.
Okay.
He's an H2O hero for life, man. He's on all of our stuff all the time, and it's just part of it.
So your plan is to be nationwide and
Yeah.
grow nationwide. So with multiple locations, get into the franchise business, or what are you thinking?
Probably dealers. Franchising, frankly, there's a lot of red tape.
Okay.
So more having dealers where they buy it. We help train them, and they can use our name and marketing, and we just help them, learn our business and grow. So we're in the process of opening a dealer in Virginia, Texas, New Jersey, New York. So we're getting there.
So how do you find? Do they reach out to you, or
Usually
they
Yeah.
trying to reach out to you? They say, yeah, no, I like what you're doing, and
Yeah.
you'd be like, how can I help grow a business here?
Yeah. Most of the time, it's guys that are already in the water business.
Okay.
Like 3 of our dealers they've already been in the water business for a little while. They just can't get that next step. It's usually him and an installer, or him and he's installing his own equipment.
Right.
So we want to help them get to that point.
Now, is there like conferences and stuff like this? Like, do you go out and do conferences? And he's like, how do you find these people?
I'm sure there are water conferences,
Right.
but I probably wouldn't go at this point.
Okay.
It's kind of like being in a room with a bunch of used car salesmen. I'm good.
So how do you pick what's the right products to put into people's homes then?
We do a lot of research. There's a lot of research behind which filtration media we use, which tanks we use, which valves we use. The goal is to have the best quality up front, so we can avoid service issues in the future.
So what's your best system you have now?
It's called the Defender 5.
Okay. Why does that make that one so much better than the rest or the other ones?
So there's 5 different filtration medias inside one tank.
Okay.
So it's going to filter a little bit more than a typical, water softener or water filter that goes in the house. And the technology behind it is really cool. You can put it on vacation mode. It'll tell you if you have a plumbing leak in the house.
Wow.
And there's a lot of different things that it can do that a typical water system couldn't do.
So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So anything else you want to share to anybody else? Like if they wanted to get into this business, how they go about doing it, or?
give us a call. We'll help you. Our phone number is 866 H2O Hero. Pretty easy to remember.
Yeah.
You know, so if somebody's looking to get into the water filtration industry anywhere in the country, you know, we're more than happy to help them get started.
Okay. And then what about like if they want to get same number, if they want to get it into like if they want to get a filtration system put in their house, just call that same number and they schedule it?
Yep, absolutely.
Cool.
In any social media platform, we're pretty much on as the H2O Heroes, whether it's Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, whatever.
So you guys do a lot of videos with the stuff?
We're working on. We actually have a studio at our office.
Oh, do you?
We just don't use it as much as we should, you know. But we're working on getting some videos together.
I think that would be a pretty cool concept if you could figure out how to get your like little dudes or your guys that you create and do some kind of like commercial or something like that.
There's a couple of videos we have with our superheroes.
Yeah, okay.
And we're thinking about going in like different busy areas with a microphone and interviewing people on how much bottled water they buy or what kind of bottled water they buy, trying to figure out some way to, you know, do that, get into the market a little bit more on YouTube. And
because I think that would be an interesting concept because, you know, so many people do buy. I mean, you hear the stories about the all the water bottles that pile up in landfills and
millions
and in the ocean and everything else, right? And so I think there's definitely a need of change for it all, right? I mean, if they could figure out how we can put a water filtration system in everybody's house, so you stop buying the water. Of course, you know, the big water companies they'll fight you tooth and nail.
Oh yeah.
And so because that's how they make so much money off of selling water, which is crazy. I mean, you got something that costs them 5 cents and they're selling it for $1, $2, $3, right? And so they'll never get away from it. But like, I mean, I remember watching something about it and the craziness of the markup in the water that they're using. Some of the water that they use isn't even that great of water.
No, it's not.
It's like, you know,
I won't name the company, but there's a company that it's bottled water and people still swim there. Can't be that great.
It's like, you know, I just don't understand. Okay, you know, they take the water that they're using. There was a place, it was out, and when I was watching this documentary on it, I think it was somewhere in California or around that area, and they were bottling water that wasn't even, it was like, I mean, it was barely drinkable.
Well, there's less regulations on bottled water than there is on tap water. And no one drinks the tap water, right?
And so you got cleaner tap water than you have in bottled water.
It can, for sure.
I mean, you know, depending upon where it's at. Like I knew when I was in Maryland, their filtration water, like in the city, was like had all these things on it, all these mandates. Had to have like whatever stuff added to it and adjectives and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And so like I remember them saying that at one point, this was a long time ago, that they said the water was actually better coming out of your sink than going and buying bottled water because of all the regulations that were on it, which is crazy.
Yeah, there's some areas like that. You know, Baltimore's water is okay.
Yeah. So we still drink out of it. Like, we still wouldn't drink out of it. Like, I mean, she's just very particular about my wife is.
Well, I'm glad she likes our water.
So, she's very particular about where she gets her. Well, I mean, she's so particular. Like I think I said earlier, is that she won't even give our dogs the regular water.
Well, good luck going back to tap water with them now. It won't happen.
So it's pretty interesting. It's pretty funny. All right. Well, I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, man.
Thank you for coming down. All right. So, and we'll see you next time.
Awesome.
Thanks.
You can help support our podcast by checking out our Real Hustle gear. We have t-shirts, hoodies, tank tops, hats, and more. Let everyone know that you're a real hustler, willing to do whatever it takes to get the job done. You can check us out right now on realhustle.com. And right now, we are offering all of our listeners 10% off when you use the promo code PODCAST at checkout. Once again, that is PODCAST to receive 10% off your entire order.